In this video, I'm going to share with you a terrifying story that happened to me. It's a tale about how my dream started to merge with reality in the most horrifying way. This is not just a story, but a recount of the spine-chilling events that I experienced. I hope you're ready for a journey into the world of nightmares and reality. I remember the first night it began. I had been exhausted from a long day at work and fell asleep almost immediately after my head hit the pillow. The dream started innocuously enough. I was in my childhood home, the familiar surroundings offering a sense of comfort. But soon, that comfort began to dissolve. Shadows started to elongate and darken, and a cold, ominous presence filled the air. I walked through the corridors of my old house, each step echoing louder than the last. As I turned a corner, I saw a figure standing at the end of the hallway. It was tall, shrouded in darkness, and its eyes glowed a deep, menacing red. My heart pounded as I approached it, unable to stop myself. Just as I reached out to touch the figure, I woke up in a cold sweat. I brushed off the nightmare as a result of stress and exhaustion. However, the following night, the dream continued from where it left off. This time, the figure spoke. Its voice was deep and hollow, echoing in the silence of the house. "You cannot escape," it said. "What you see here will come to pass." I awoke again, my heart racing. The words of the figure echoed in my mind, but I tried to convince myself it was just a dream. That day, I went about my routine, but I couldn't shake the feeling of unease. That night, the dream returned, even more vivid and terrifying. I found myself in a dark forest. The trees gnarled and twisted, the air thick with fog. The figure appeared again, this time closer, and its words were even more chilling. "Soon," it whispered. As days turned into weeks, the dreams grew more intense and specific. I began to see familiar faces in my dreams, friends and family, all meeting horrific fates. The most horrifying part was that these nightmares started to bleed into reality. One morning, I woke up to find a scratch on my arm, exactly where a branch had cut me in the dream the night before. I confided in a close friend about my experiences, hoping for some rational explanation. Instead, they looked at me with a mix of fear and pity, suggesting I see a therapist. Desperate, I took their advice, but the dreams only intensified. The therapist's office became a part of my nightmares. The once safe space now twisted and filled with the same menacing presence. One particularly horrifying night, I dreamed I was driving down an empty highway. The sky was pitch black, and the road seemed endless. Suddenly, the figure appeared in the middle of the road. I swerved to avoid it, and the car crashed into a tree. I woke up with a start, only to receive a call moments later that my friend had been in a car accident on that very road. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. The dreams were not just nightmares, but premonitions, each one a warning of events that were yet to unfold. I became obsessed with trying to prevent these dreams from becoming reality, but the more I tried, the more inevitable they seemed. I started to avoid sleep, fearing what I might see next, but exhaustion always won, and the nightmares would resume with a vengeance. The figure grew more persistent, appearing not just in my dreams, but in the shadows of my waking life. I saw it out of the corner of my eye, lurking in dark corners, always watching. One night, I decided to confront it. In my dream, I called out to the figure, demanding to know what it was. The response was chilling. "I am the keeper of your fate," it said. "You cannot change what is destined to happen." The final straw came when I dreamed of my own death. I saw myself lying in bed, my body cold and lifeless, the figure standing over me. I woke up, but the sense of dread was overwhelming. Every noise, every shadow seemed to signal the impending doom. I knew I had to do something, anything, to break free from this cycle. I sought out old texts, consulted with anyone who might have answers, but nothing worked. The figure's hold on me grew stronger, and my grip on reality began to slip. Days turned into a blur, and I felt like I was living in a nightmare within a nightmare. The line between dream and reality had all but disappeared. I became a shell of my former self, consumed by fear and desperation. In the end, it wasn't the figure that took me, but the relentless torment of my own mind. The dreams had become my reality, and I, a mere puppet to the horrors they foretold. As I sit here, writing this account, I can feel its presence behind me, waiting. The nightmare is far from over, and I fear it never will be. The days blurred together, an endless loop of dread and despair. I isolated myself from everyone, fearing that any interaction would lead to their harm. Sleep was no longer a reprieve, but a gateway to more torment. My mind, once sharp and rational, was now a battleground of fear and confusion. One night, as I sat in my dimly lit room, the figure appeared again, but this time, it felt different. The air was heavier, the shadows darker. I could feel its malevolent gaze piercing through me. It spoke again, but the words were unlike any before. "Your time is near," it whispered, its voice echoing in my mind long after it had faded. I knew that I couldn't continue living in this state. I had to confront whatever it was that haunted me and put an end to this nightmare. Gathering every ounce of courage I had left, I decided to face the figure in my dreams one last time. That night, I forced myself to fall asleep, determined to take control. The dream began as it always did, in the familiar setting of my childhood home. The figure was waiting, its presence more overwhelming than ever. I walked towards it, my steps heavy but resolute. As I got closer, I could see the details of its dark, tattered cloak, the gleam of its red eyes. "Why are you doing this?" I demanded, my voice trembling but firm. "What do you want from me?" The figure remained silent for a moment, then slowly raised its head. "I am the harbinger of your fate," it said, "but you have the power to end this. You must accept what you have denied." Confusion washed over me. "What do you mean? Accept what?" The figure extended its hand, and in its palm was a small, ancient-looking amulet. "This holds the key to your freedom. Accept it, and the nightmares will cease." Hesitant, I reached out and took the amulet. The moment my fingers touched it, a surge of energy coursed through me. The dream began to dissolve, and I felt myself waking up. When I opened my eyes, that amulet was still in my hand, its surface cold and smooth. I felt an overwhelming sense of relief and clarity. The figure's words echoed in my mind, and I realized that my struggle was not just with the entity, but with myself. I had been running from my fears, denying my destiny. With a newfound resolve, I placed the amulet around my neck. As it settled against my skin, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The oppressive weight that had been bearing down on me lifted, and for the first time in months, I felt a glimmer of hope. The nightmares didn't return. My sleep was undisturbed, and the figure was nowhere to be seen. The amulet had become a symbol of my acceptance and my strength. I knew that I had faced my darkest fears and emerged victorious. Though the experience had left its mark on me, I felt stronger and more resilient. The figure's presence was a reminder of the darkness that lurks in the shadows, but also of the light that can be found within. As I moved forward, I carried the lessons I had learned, knowing that I had the power to face whatever came my way. The nightmare was over, and my life, though forever changed, was my own once again.